The pingdemic gathers pace with record numbers ordered to isolate. Nearly 700,000 people are stuck at home after being pinged by the NHS.
What I'd say to people is, look, I know it's frustrating, please stick with it, it's just a few more weeks.
Also tonight, clear and present danger, evidence the UK is already in the grip of damaging climate change. The terrible cost of conflict as British troops leave Afghanistan, the lasting legacy of grief.
Luke was a good friend, and I convinced him to go to Afghanistan, and sadly he didn't come back.
The X Factor, the curtain comes down on the once all-powerful reality show.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Yet another record was set today by the number of people told to self-isolate by the NHS. Nearly 700,000 people in England and Wales were pinged by alerts from the NHS app last week. Well, so far the government is resisting calls to scrap the app and bring to an end the so-called pingdemic, saying it is expanding the list of workers exempt from isolation. For the second day in a row, there was a rise in new COVID cases. Today's figure of 31,117 is up by more than 3,000 from yesterday, and that upward trend in deaths continued. 85 more today. Here's our health editor, Emily Morgan.
Most are here for the ride of their life. Others for the vaccine that might save their life. Thorpe Park in Surrey was offering jabs to thousands of people today in the hope the young will come forward. With only 60% of under 30s immunised, health officials are trying anything.
As a young person, it's really hard to commit to a time or, get to a vaccination centre. Not everyone, has easy access to transport to drive and stuff.
The vast majority of COVID cases are now in the young. 27-year-old Mark didn't think twice about getting vaccinated. He doesn't have COVID, but he is isolating. He and his stepmum were pinged 3 days ago and has had to close their restaurant.
We had our COVID test. Everybody came back negative. And it's just a shame, really, because both my parents, they both have their jabs ready. So they both have 2 jabs. Me and my brother, we both have 1 each. So it's really shameful that even though we're the jabs, we still have to shut down the restaurant.
In England and Wales, the latest figures show 689,000 people were pinged by the NHS COVID app for being near a positive case. That's a record high, up 11% in a week. Separately, more than 500,000 people were contacted by Test and Trace in England, up 25%, a total of 1.2 million notifications in just a week.
Hi, Rishi.
Some key workers are now exempt, and soon the double-jabbed will also just be asked to test, not isolate, but that's not changing until mid-August.
I think it's the right approach as we exit the restrictions to do so in a cautious way. I know it's frustrating, please stick with it. It's just a few more weeks, and then we can, as I said, all look forward hopefully to a very good summer.
Ending automatic isolation, though, does come with some risk.
If we are taking up a lot of testing as an alternative, we may pick up more infections in the population. That is a possibility. But I think, will we see a rise in genuine infections that put others at risk as a result of that new model? There, I'm not so sure, because I think the vaccines do provide very good protection.
If the risks then are so small, it raises the question, why not make the changes right now? Emily Morgan, ITV News.
And our Deputy Political Editor Anushka Astana is with me. To Emily's point, Anushka, the Chancellor says wait. Quite a lot of other people are saying why.
Well, I have actually put that question to members of the Cabinet and other ministers, and they say that public health experts inside government have advised that waiting until August the 16th will just help to keep hospitalisations down. I'm told that they chose that date because they thought it would be just after the peak of this wave. Now, the numbers are better than we expected, but because it's still not certain, they are suggesting that date will stay in place. In the meantime, they're trying to set up 2,000 testing sites in critical industries, so food depots, transport hubs and so on. But we were told today that so far only 260 are up and running. I'm waiting for an update on those figures. And one senior figure in an industry said to me, it is hard to motivate people because it's voluntary. Many people are paid whether they go to work or don't go to work. And there is no carrot because otherwise they still have to self-isolate at home. So definitely teething problems, but all eyes on that August the 16th date.
OK, Anushka, thank you very much. Britain's leading weather forecasters are warning of more and more extreme weather caused by climate change. Already this year, we have had flooding and a heat wave. The UK's first named storm of the summer, Storm Avert, is set to hit tonight. And now scientists say climate change is not a problem for the future. It is already here. Rupert Evelyn reports.
Weather has always had a wild streak. But as the world warms, we are being routinely forced to rewrite our record books. Pick your season and you'll find the extreme events are getting longer, warmer, wetter, hotter and colder. Flooding in London last week left a dirty stain on lives and livelihoods. Louise Bellamy studies climate change and had just moved into her new home when she became a victim of a climate-related event.
Well, a lot of books and electricals and a lot of personal belongings that have just completely gone to waste.
2020 was the third warmest, fifth wettest and eighth sunniest on record for the UK. And say meteorologists, change will continue. 40-degree temperatures in British summers are likely to become regular, and that's only if humanity manages to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. Those behind today's report warn of the need to act now.
It's not happening somewhere else in the world, it's happening here on our doorstep. And we'll need to adapt to a changing climate, but we also need to take action now to mitigate against climate change.
This year's crop is looking healthy, but the outlook for decades to come is less certain. And that means that farmers may have to adapt. Environmental changes require solutions, and some in farming sense opportunity to play a part.
A number of farmers are trying now not to plough but to use non-inverted tillage to try and retain nutrients and organic matter in the soil. And we're actively looking to engage with carbon markets, perhaps planting trees. But at the moment, it's probably underdeveloped.
Despite work to protect us, government can't do it all.
We cannot protect everyone and everywhere from future flooding, which is why part of our flood strategy is to weave in making sure that individuals know the steps that they need to take to prepare, act and survive.
Climate change is happening. The test is how the world reacts to it. Rupert Evelyn, ITV News.
Well, let's move on to the Olympics now. It was, by recent standards anyway, a pretty quiet day on the medals front for Team GB in Tokyo. But still, the national side managed to add a couple more to their haul. On the water, Mallory Franklin was just pipped to the gold by her Australian rival, taking silver in the women's canoe slalom. World champion Matt Coward-Holly arrived as one of the favourites for gold in the trap shooting, but he had to settle for bronze. And defending champion Helen Glover made history by becoming the first mother to row for Team GB. She just returned from a 4-year career break in which she'd had 3 children, including twins. She and rowing partner Polly Swan just missed the medals, coming 4th in the women's pairs final. So let's take a look then at the medals table. Team GB are in 6th place. We're now 10 gold medals behind both China and Japan. The government released figures today showing the number of schools in England taking part in their summer catch-up programme. Nearly 3,000 secondary schools will be helping students make up with the disruption caused by the pandemic. But as Hannah Miller reports from the northeast of England, that means just 500,000 pupils will benefit, with many more left out.
The joy of being back to school, even in the summer. Playing catch-up with the friends they've missed and the ones they've never met.
At first I was really nervous, but once I got into the first day, I loved it.
Especially throughout COVID, it's been really hard to do anything, and I'm really grateful that I'm here.
Children invited to summer programmes like this will get around 7 days of activity, amid the hard reality that on average each child's missed out on 23 weeks at school.
It's going to be really difficult to try and help them to catch up completely. I don't know whether they ever will. All we can do is absolutely put our best foot forward and put every effort in to getting it right for those children and giving them every support that they need.
Almost 3/4 of secondary schools are offering some kind of summer programme, but with the main focus on pupils in Year 6 and Year 7, the number of children who are invited is much lower. In reality, it's around 1 in 15 children who'll come to schemes like this. Giving some of them a few days of help over the summer isn't going to cut it in terms of catch-up, is it?
Summer schemes can help children catch up by as much as 2 months to 4 months, but this is only just one element of a catch-up programme that we're offering. Along with this, there's small group tutoring, as well as extra support amounting to over £3 billion for schools.
But some head teachers say the government plan doesn't go far enough.
A school like ours would need 6,000 hours of personal tuition for the children. Where am I going to find 6,000 hours of tuition? I can't ask my staff to work extra long days, and I can't ask the children to work extra long days.
But some parents, like Alison, are struggling to understand why there's nothing this summer for her 10-year-old son, Cohen.
I am very frustrated that my son isn't included. I think all children should be treated equally and given exactly the same opportunities. No child should be favoured over another child.
And many warn the hard work going on here can't be the limit of the government's ambition, as schools across the country try to help their children reach as high as they possibly can. Hannah Miller, ITV News.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News. Losing the X Factor, why it is a no to the show. And the new Phantom star on why she hopes to inspire others. Those stories and more after the break. Join me then. Welcome back. The war in Afghanistan cost the lives of 457 British servicemen and women. It also left deep scars of grief and trauma for the troops who survived the conflict and, of course, the families of those who didn't. 2 weeks before ITV News filmed C Company 3 Para in 2006, as they gathered for this group picture, one of them, Luke McCulloch, was killed in action. For the second in our series, Afghanistan Photo from the Front Line, Emma Murphy reports on the anguish still felt by his comrades.
Back then, a nation mourned the fallen of that faraway conflict. Their sad return home, a regular feature on the nightly news. The years have passed, but not the pain of those touched by a controversial war. The deaths of soldiers like Luke McCulloch continue to impact not only their families, but those who served with them. Luke, an Irish Ranger attached to 3 Para, had been based here at Sangin, an outpost that came under daily attack from the Taliban. His comrades recall the assault that took his life.
A mortar landed no more than 10 metres behind me, and the shrapnel just took off in different directions. I couldn't see because of the dust. My hearing had completely gone. I couldn't hear anything. I knew there was screaming, but I looked down. Whenever the dust started to clear, I looked down and my desert combats were all red.
It is an image Trevor Coult will never forget. The blood was not his own. Colour Sergeant Richard Spence also lives with the memory of that day and the young soldier he'd persuaded to go to Afghanistan. Spence, who's now retired, was himself badly injured in the same attack.
At our base guess, about 20 mortar bombs fell within about 2 minutes. I got picked up off the ground, thrown through the air, some considerable distance.
He recalls a desperate helicopter evacuation under fire, during which Luke McCulloch died.
We had no time to strap in, and we were literally rolling about the fuselage with the tail gunner, engaging as many enemy targets as he could. And as we climbed the altitude, I remember glancing over before I got into the seat. The medic giving a wave off that indicated that Corporal McCulloch perhaps had made it. As we flew back to Bastion, we just remember glancing over once in a while, hoping that they could revive Luke, and perhaps they were mistaken. And then you just couldn't look anymore. You just looked out of the... Sorry. Yeah, I've never spoke about it before. Luke was a good friend, and I convinced him to go to Afghanistan, and sadly he didn't come back.
Do you wrestle with your role in encouraging Luke to go to Afghanistan?
Every day, because you always ask yourself that question, what if I'd have done this instead of doing that? And that's just a burden you just have to have. And I don't think anything will ever change that.
What happens to that burden over the years? Does it change or not?
No, for me it doesn't change. Sometimes as you get older it becomes worse because you think, you know, where would Luke be now in his life?
So many years on, but those painful questions and the memory of a good friend lost never go away. Emma Murphy, ITV News.
Well, in the next report in this series next week, we speak to Luke's mother, and you can read more stories linked to that image of C Company on our website, itv.com/photo from the front line. A cyclist has been jailed for 2 years after he ran a red light into a pedestrian who later died. CCTV footage showed Emir Loka collided with 72-year-old Peter McCombie, who was walking home from work last July in London. Instead of stopping, Loka rode off. Mr. McCombie later died from his injuries. Now it is the TV reality talent show that launched the careers of chart-topping artists like One Direction, Little Mix and, of course, Leona Lewis. Its judges, including Sharon Osbourne, Louis Walsh and Simon Cowell, became household names too. But now, as Rebecca Barry reports, the X Factor itself is facing the axe.
Nothing's fine, I'm torn.
One Direction.
This is how I feel.
Little Mix.
Leona Lewis. It propelled them and many more to global fame. The X Factor, at its height so big it became part of our lexicon, both a producer and a product of British popular culture.
Why are you here, girls?
We are the best talent in the country.
Okay.
But after 17 years, it's set to be consigned to the annals of pop history.
I never will forget.
ITV confirming there are no plans for another series. At its peak, it would regularly pull in 12 million viewers on a Saturday night.
Wow.
The format so popular, it's been sold around the world. But Simon Cowell and the judges often seem the real stars of the show.
It's Honey G.
While charisma sometimes trumped vocal skills.
When I say honey, you say G.
And some former contestants have since accused it of being exploitative.
Honey G.
Hey everyone, we're Jedward, and breaking news, the X Factor has been axed.
That's my job. Jedward among those now celebrating its demise.
We're going to be 30 this year, and we were 17 when we first hit that stage in Glasgow. So we get the last laugh. We're still here, yeah, still here, not a wrinkle inside, but Simon Cowell, you know, we hope you're well and everything's going just your way, you know, even though the show has been axed.
It's bringing back floods of memories.
But from this former contestant, there's only trademark positivity.
It's still Chico time.
It's still Chico time. It's always Chico time. Till the end of time. I'm eternally grateful for it, because without it, I wouldn't be where I am. Thank you, Simon. If you need any TV formats, come and check me out.
Simon Cowell will be back on your screens with a new musical game show. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
And finally, there were celebrations when the musical Phantom of the Opera reopened this week after its lengthy COVID break. But it was an extra special moment for the actress taking over the lead role, first made famous by Sarah Brightman. Lucy St. Louis is the first black performer to play the part. Faye Barker went to meet her.
The Phantom of the Opera has returned with a new star making history. For the first time, a black performer's playing one of theatre's most iconic female leads. For Lucy St. Louis, her opening night was groundbreaking.
Receiving the response that I had from the audience was so overwhelmingly beautiful. It was amazing to feel accepted, especially being the first black woman to play this role in the West End and on Broadway. And if my younger self could see this now, she would be screaming inside with pure joy and happiness. I never saw women in lead roles that looked like me, and I was always kind of told that you're going to be playing certain roles, and they were roles that were made for black performers.
The role of Christine was made famous by Sarah Brightman 35 years ago. The Andrew Lloyd Webber musical, a constant global hit ever since, but not one that can't change.
I'd say this is one of the iconic ones, and this one...
By simply being here now, Lucy hopes all others will see a door opening to them.
I want everyone to know that they can be in this position, because when you see it, you believe it.
Phantom proves night after night that it can still bring the house down, but it can also break boundaries. Faye Barker, ITV News.
And that is all for now. Nina's here at 10, but from me and all the team here on the Evening News, bye-bye.